Now on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
Now you tell me what you can do with that sentence.
Not sure.
It's so broad.
I
It's
have a
so
headache.
general.
We don't have enough time.
You got no shot.
It's enough said on
Anyway,
that.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Bones consistent with a juvenile male. Teeth that would eventually be matched to Jacob's dental records. And a t-shirt that said Wetterling. Finally, we knew. Finally, the Wetterling family could lay their son to rest.
Welcome back to another edition of Enough Said. A lot quieter than at the fair, and maybe given the subject matter, very somber, it probably is more appropriate. My name's Dan Barrero. Justin Guard is to my left, and Lori Fisher is in the control room to get us started. Hi, Lori.
Hi, guys. This is a tough one to start with. The remains of Jacob Wetterling found nearly 27 years after being kidnapped near his St. Joseph home. It turned out the man questioned just a few months after his disappearance, Danny Heinrich, did in fact kill Jacob, and we finally know now because of a plea deal, Heinrich will not be prosecuted on state murder charges. Dan?
Well, you know, we're all trying to put ourselves in the position of the Wetterlings, as impossible as that is. And if you strip this story bare, to me, what is the most difficult to comprehend is that the Wetterlings were in a position where, to find out, to get that answer, they had to, one, accept that the murderer was never going to be charged with murder.
Right.
And two, they were going to have to allow the murderer, that same person, the floor, in a courtroom, to lay out details that, by the way, we don't even know that everything he said was true. But you're going to give him that forum because you're trying to get some sort of confirmation and obviously to the remains, so you finally can bring, in a sense, your kid home. I can't imagine having to make that call at that incredible cost within the courtroom. I think most of us, I certainly understand why they did after all these years. But to have that, there's your choice, stripped bare. What an awful proposition.
And a week ago Tuesday, basically, is when that was offered up to them, right, by the Stearns County attorney. And I've been trying to put myself in that same position. It's funny that you say that. Really, in all of these people's position, whether it's the other victims of this guy, whether it's the blogger who has been working on this forever, or the police, the FBI, but certainly the family first and foremost. And it had to be their call. And that's the one thing I think that got missed a little bit this week, because all of us, it's almost like people thought we were taking it harder, the sentencing I'm talking about, than the Wetterlings were, right? And said, 20 years, that seems like nothing. How often did we hear that on the radio this week? But it wasn't our call. And I thought the best response to that was, when it's your kid and he's been gone 27 years, it's your call and nobody else's, and the rest of us can have our opinions, but it was all up to them, and what a decision they had to make. You're absolutely right. And it eventually brought him home, so to speak.
And what, to me, the second guessers miss is there's no, as far as I can tell, better solution, if you want to use that.
That was the only solution.
There was no other way out of the box to say, well, that's ridiculous. In fact, you can make the argument that Janelle Kendall was key to this case, in that she goes to the feds to say, on the child, once they have the child porn stuff, they want more from the house, but that's all they have. And they want more for leverage, but they say, if I go to the feds, can I make these charges federal, which will give us the chance to up the punishment above and beyond what they would normally be, and maybe give us the best chance to, quote unquote, negotiate with, as she put it with us, you're doing a deal with the devil. And so the idea that, well, this doesn't, how can he walk away from murder? There is no body, there is no case unless he takes them to that case. This is the best now that anybody can do. There may be some legitimate second guessing in the front end, I think, about how did the investigation, how was he pursued?
Yeah.
Were there ways to be more aggressive with him?
But it was also 1989.
Where they didn't
have a lot
have
of the
the
same
DNA stuff they have
technologies.
now.
They don't have cell phones. They don't have DNA. They didn't have any of that stuff. And it was a weird day in court, I'm sure, for everybody. It was a horrible day in the courtroom. But we talk about how we all experience things together now because of social media, and everything is very quick. Everybody was feeling the courtroom stuff, right? I mean, talking about words that Jacob was saying, talking about Heinrich had never done this before, this part of it, the killing, but what spooked him? The fact that he knew police were on him, and they said that was the cruel irony of it. The police response was so quick that he melted down, he panicked, he admitted that he panicked, and that was it. We were all experiencing that together.
Who knows what he really would have done in any case.
But he had released people before.
That's true. Let's
stay on the case, but let's talk about the amazing strength of Patty and Jerry Wetterling and the rest of their family. Patty spoke at the news conference on Tuesday. Take a listen.
Jacob, he's taught us all how to live, how to love, how to be fair, how to be kind. He speaks to the world that he knew, that we all believe in, and it is a world that's worth fighting for. His legacy will go on. I want to say, Jacob, I'm so sorry. It's incredibly painful to know his last days, last hours, last minutes.
Patty has been so incredible through all of this. She's also been tweeting thank yous several times for notes, flowers, and prayers. It's just unbelievable how much she's accomplished to help missing and exploited children. Dan?
There's two ways to go. Well, there's many ways, but there are two ways on either end of the spectrum to go in a situation like what they faced. One is to say, I'm withdrawing. I'm out. Yep. I don't want to be public. I'll try to heal, but I'm going to do it my own way, and I don't need constant reminders of what we have endured for the better part of 3 decades. The other way is to do what they have done. And I don't think you can say that the other way is bad. I don't think anybody can rip anybody who decides to go almost silent.
Right.
But the willingness that this family has had, starting with Patty, to go as frontal, to be as public, and to attempt to say, all right, here, what can we do to honor him? Well, what we can do is try to set up mechanisms by which others who might be enduring some of the same pain can get some help, or a process by which we can help maybe have a better resolution than what the resolution ends up being in our case. The stories go on forever. They've been told for decades, actually. And so to that extent, the salute for them, that level of courage, I think I can't even begin to approximate it. It's unbelievable.
Strength, courage, and grace don't seem like enough, right, to describe them? Because those are the words that we're all using. Strength, courage, grace. I'm sure there's a lot more. And they seem underwhelming for what they've done. And the most heartbreaking part of that news conference, it was all heartbreaking, but for me was when she said, for us, this is a tough day because we always thought he was coming home. And Jacob's hope, that was the whole thing. And we thought he was alive. So while many people maybe feared the worst and assumed the worst, they had always kept that sliver of hope. That was the most heartbreaking thing for me. And if you are from Minnesota, you know the name Jacob Wetterling. I'm curious how long it takes people that moved here to learn that name, right? Like from somewhere else, because it was so prevalent, and that was because of Patty, that was because of the family, that was because of the foundation. And they did not allow us to forget, not that we would have, but by being so active, being out there in front and creating the organization that's helping and keeping kids safe, Jacob is going to live forever. The Twins are doing something tonight. The Gophers are doing something tonight, and it's going to be a yearly thing, a monthly thing, and I don't think any of us will forget.
and again, for the old deal of then you send out the signal that you're not alone. If you're going through this, you have a group that knows where you've been, and we can at least try to facilitate. You know, the sentence that will haunt us all, if he really indeed said it, if Jacob said it, was what did I do wrong? And you can't get that out of your head.
No.
But if he said it, my feeling has been there. I think there are people almost afraid to talk about it or to say it. And to me, in an odd sort of way, we owe it to that kid who had to live through that horror, that we've got to listen to him without flinching. If those were his words, I don't think we should back away from those at all, because it's such a he lived it.
Yeah.
And the family decided ultimately, we'll take the pain of whatever this monster says in order to finally have some kind of resolution.
While he did report drug suspicions, he chose not to share many other important details about what he knew. I have a great deal of respect for Coach Robinson and what he's accomplished during his 30 years at the University of Minnesota. That respect cannot excuse his conduct in this instance.
Fired. The U of M terminates head wrestling coach Jay Robinson after allegations of drug abuse on the team. New athletics director Mark Coyle says Robinson wouldn't answer critical questions like, what did he know and when did he know it? Justin.
Surprising ending, not that Jay Robinson is gone. I think all of us had kind of agreed that once we knew most of the details, there was never any workable situation where he was going to be able to come back and coach the team.
Unlikely at best.
All of us assumed that it was going to be some kind of golden parachute, some kind of buyout, and Mark Coyle, who has a lot of respect for Jay and has worked with him in the past, recognizing, you know what, 30 years, hard to wipe that away with one grievous error, as grievous as the error was. Let's maybe work on a buyout, do this. I don't know how you felt, but I was shocked when this is just as clean a cut as humanly possible. It's you're terminated with just cause. It's in your deal. We're not going to pay you 1 cent. That was the surprising part for me.
No question.
Is that this is settlement university. This is buyout university.
Passive-aggressive university.
Passive-aggressive state. Yeah. And they're used to writing checks that go on in perpetuity to former coaches. So to come in and as his first big move, cut the cord completely, it shows you that he was annoyed that Jay Robinson didn't cooperate, and they had some stuff on him that maybe we don't know about.
Maybe it's because Mark Rotenberg isn't here, too, because it seems like he was
the old
involved
attorney?
with a lot of that stuff, the old attorney.
An old Rosenbaum favorite.
That's true.
Mark Rotenberg.
He was never shy about ripping Rotenberg, whether he deserved it or not. I don't doubt that there was probably some discussion about a settlement through this. And so, to a certain extent, I think this also meant we couldn't come to terms. And so we're not going to we've reached a point where we're not going to play this game anymore. You know, the problem I have, again, with the folks who are defending Jay Robinson is that you don't get, this isn't his wrestling camp, okay? No matter whether you're a father figure or not, if you have what appears to be, on the basis of what we have been told, a prescription drug ring in your team, you don't get to be judge, jury, and executioner.
If it was just drug use, could he have done it?
Well, maybe. It's a different story.
Different conversation.
But I will say,
when you're selling, it's different.
I still do want more information, and I hope we get more information from the AD on what exactly did he say and what didn't he say. Because I think, as thorough as this appears from Coyle on holding to account the wrestling coach, who's been a terrific presence here for much of his time here, that shouldn't be discounted.
Right.
You got to also say, you got to be as tough, I think, with the administrators. What did they tell you? What did you do with that information? And maybe the answer is clear, and maybe that's why for Coyle it was an easy decision to make. But that part of it is still a part I think reporters who are working this story should continue to pursue. I really do.
The romantics will say what you said, is that he was protecting his kids.
Right.
The cynics will say he was protecting himself and protecting his program. Probably somewhere in the middle, but it's all part of it.
You got bosses. You're working for other people.
Enough said.
You have to go to the authorities and let them also deal with this as well.
The Vikings play the Titans on Fox 9 in their first regular season game this Sunday, but who will play quarterback instead of Teddy Bridgewater? We have the newly acquired Sam Bradford and Sean Hill. And was Bradford a good move, Dan?
Well, my gut tells me Hill's going to start this week. I don't know why. I know the commentary from Norv Turner almost seems to indicate, boy,
Bradford's picking it up.
He's Jedi Knight guy.
He's a smart player.
He's
no
genius. Stopping him.
Yep.
So nothing would shock me. But I have a hunch they may wait a week on starting him. I've said from the beginning on Bradford that if you're a fan, and even if you're a player, you probably love this, because it is saying we've got an unusual circumstance we couldn't have expected, well, at least at this point, anticipated. We don't have a backup that we feel strongly about who can carry us through the whole season. We're going to roll the dice even on a number one and think bigger because we like the rest of our team.
Yeah.
Right? It says that. But I also think if you take out that Bradford was a number one overall pick and everybody knew the name and just looked at his resume.
It's not terrific.
I think a lot of people would say, on the basis of that, his performance plus the injuries, would say, okay, that's interesting, but I'm not all that excited. So I think we got to go in with our eyes open, even if it's understandable that they said, we got to be aggressive here with what we think we have on this team.
If you're a fan, you should like it. Yeah. The fact that a week ago when we're at the state fair, everybody's assuming the worst. We're thinking it's going to be 5-11.
We ran into Lester Bagley.
That's right.
His head was down.
He looked down.
Slumped
he was wearing
over.
Glasses.
Right.
Only part of that is true.
Well,
maybe the first part that we ran into him.
Yeah.
But the fact that they were aggressive and they did say we're not going to worry, because we're all worried about who it's going to be. Sean Hill, Josh McCown, Michael Vick. We're throwing out all these has-beens.
Number 4.
I threw out number 4. That was more
6 years removed
for me and the crowd at the fair. They loved it.
Yeah.
I was trying to get them on our side. But you mentioned, though, the most important thing that I don't think we've discussed enough is the injury stuff. Forget about the performance of Sam Bradford, which has been uneven at best. I know he finished the season very strong a year ago, and he apparently had another great preseason, right? And he wasn't a perfect match for what the old coach of Philadelphia wanted to do.
Made no sense.
So
they traded for him.
He's kind of been mismatched the last handful of years. But the injury thing cannot be overlooked with the ACLs. I think there was a shoulder, and so you're already down one quarterback because of injury. You can't assume, given this is an offensive line, though improved, we think, that got the quarterback sacked 44 times a year ago. You can't assume that just because you've got Bradford now, everything's good, he's going to play 16 games. But he has an injury history.
But I thought you were going with the Teddy injury, because that is also part of it. What this tells us is what a lot of us have been told from the beginning. This is even if they call the surgery successful, which
starts
the Vikings
at a year.
Did,
exactly.
It's a year plus injury.
Yes.
And there's no guarantee even what he's going to be at that point. So I think part of the reason they're willing to roll the dice is we got to have a buffer for a guy who's been viewed at least as a starter in the league to give us a shot.
He's functional.
And in one way, he could end up, if it works, it's better than Favre, because Favre was always viewed as, we'll get 1 to maybe 2 years, and as it is, we got 1 good, 1 horrible.
Yep.
And Bradford's young enough to say, well, if this works, you got your guy for several years.
Coming up on Enough Said.
Now, you tell me what you can do with that sentence.
Not sure.
It's so broad.
I have
so
a headache.
general.
We don't have enough time.
You got no shot.
Welcome back to Enough Said. Now that school's back in session, people are talking about trigger warnings. That's when professors warn students that they're going to start talking about sensitive or controversial subjects. Are trigger warnings needed, or do they go too far in coddling college kids? Dan?
It's an ongoing subject. Ron and I talked about it forever, both on TV and radio.
Never
I
ended.
think you and I have talked about it some, but I thought today might be a good day to get back to it, because it's back to school for everybody.
Everybody's back.
And it seems like this is being even more institutionalized, with the one exception of the University of Chicago president, who I think we talked about, who basically said, we ain't doing
Good
it.
luck. There's no warnings.
Sink or swim.
Deal with it.
Here's the level of absurdity that this has reached. You're familiar with Syracuse University?
I am. That's where
Fairly
Mark Coyle just came from.
That's
We
a good
talked
point.
about it. Yeah, Syracuse.
With the Gopher truck.
Bringing him
his
back.
stuff here,
Yeah,
much
that
to
was
the
bad
chagrin of
luck.
the security
That was a
system.
trigger warning.
That
right
was
there.
They should have had one. You're
Yeah.
right. Well, they were going. Apparently, there was an event there where a professor from another school was involved in discussing speakers at an event at Syracuse. They had a number of people doing this, and it started the process to bring a film director who'd done a documentary on Israeli settlements, new settlers on the West Bank, a very controversial subject. And as soon as they caught wind of that at a couple places at Syracuse, the alarm bells went off. No. We can't even think about it. Too controversial. We're going to get too much pushback from pro-Palestinian individuals and a couple of organizations named. Forget it. Well, a couple people in the media got wind of it, and they've since at Syracuse apologized. They said they overreacted.
Yep.
But here's the kicker. This is how sad this whole thing is. According to people who've seen the documentary, it's actually quite critical of many of those settlements. So we've reached a point where the concern is so great that you don't even bother to check, well, what is it? To me, it shouldn't matter. To me, you should be able to listen to all points of view. But in this case, the point of view is actually pro-Palestinian, is what I'm told. And even that, we didn't get there. No. That's what it's about. We're running for cover. And what it points out is the degree to which, at many universities, they are so terrified of this stuff that they just cave in and they just say, let's not bother bringing these people in.
Have we ever gotten a good explanation why? Is it all about money? Is it all about the
It's a combination. I think you're right.
That
Lawyers,
big
money.
donors are going to pull funds? Because every school is bleeding now, right?
Correct.
Whether it's athletically or academically, every organization is looking for money. University of Chicago is terrific, and that's considered a pretty good university, right? See, I wish everybody would take their cues from that. If it's good enough for Chicago,
basically said, deal with it.
Yeah, good
We
luck.
have to leave it there.
Are we too early?
Can I get one more quick sentence in?
Go for it, Dan.
Bias, according to the University of Vermont Bias Response Team, is a personal inclination or temperament based on unreasoned judgment or belief. Now, you tell me what you can do with that sentence.
Not sure.
It's so broad.
I have a
so
headache.
general.
We don't have enough time.
You got no shot.
It's enough said on
Anyway,
that.
Enough said.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the lightning round. What is college football's biggest problem? Dan, you say arrogance. Why?
Well, I say arrogance.
It's a trigger warning for me that you're going to talk as opposed. This is my game. I love this.
You love this game. Arrogance that we can, and they're getting away with it, so I guess you could say they don't have to explain it, 7-hour football game. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little.
It's about 3.5.
No, it's 4.5.
It could be, with overtimes.
And I say, if we have to go to shorter half times and hurt some feelings of the great tuba players, too bad. I mean, and honestly, Is it not a little insane to have to spend 4 hours to watch a good college football game?
Or just a bad college football game.
Point.
That's the worst. We
Next
talked about
up.
that with baseball.
Yeah.
Next up,
Late
a major
start
gaffe
times,
by
too.
Libertarian Party presidential candidate Gary Johnson. He responded to a question about the Syrian civil war by asking, what is Aleppo? Justin.
Not a good look for him. This might be the dagger, right? Or people
Correct.
are saying, or as he said, might be the disqualifier. My favorite part of it in his response was, I guess I just have to get more educated, or I have to learn, or something like that. September in an election year, I don't think is the time to start learning about this stuff. That's just me. I've never run, but that's just my opinion.
I'm going to defend him a little. I'm going to say it's a mistake. It's a bad form.
But a lot of people don't know Aleppo.
But the irony, including the New York Times, that had to, in trying to rip him, run not one but two corrections about their own lack of knowledge about what is going on in Syria, including naming Aleppo as the capital of Syria when it's Damascus. So
everybody knows
what
it's
that tells
Damascus.
me is
it's obscure, but he should know it.
He should probably know it, but I don't think that means you can't vote for him.
I agree.
I really do.
I would agree with that.
Let's get to Tim Tebow. He just signed a minor league contract with the New York Mets. $100,000 signing bonus, Dan.
Well,
that was the bonus? Oh, I didn't know that he got $100,000.
This should go to you. Because you're obsessed with it.
No, I'm just don't hate the player, hate the game in this scenario. Now, the one thing I don't like about him, well, there's a few, but you are allowed to do something without the media present. You are allowed to do something where you don't go on camera. Does he?
Okay, we have to
he
keep
saved
going.
that person on an airplane.
He did?
He didn't want any publicity for that.
That was Sully. That's the movie that's coming out
Next up,
tonight.
Apple shows off the new iPhone 7 and it's missing something, the headphone jack. Guess you have to go wireless now. Apple citing the courage of its designers. Justin.
Courage. Courage?
I don't.
This is a courageous thing?
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
I think so.
all right.
I don't even have this phone yet, and I've already lost the headphones. Have you seen these earbuds?
Yeah.
That's the problem. You're going to lose them.
It'd be convenient.
Well, convenient until you put them down, and then you can't find them. It's going to be in your couch cushions. I've got a 2-year-old. It's a choking hazard.
Okay, finally, I wanted to really get to this. There's a new most interesting man in the world. Take a look.
He is the most interesting man in the world.
Wait for it. There he is. Dos Equis reveals its new pitchman after the other dude retired. The new guy is a 41-year-old French actor. He can crack a coconut with his bare hands. Dan.
He looks like Michael Phelps.
More than I can do.
Isn't that Michael
Are we
Phelps?
sure it's not Phelps?
That
with
might
a
be
beard?
Phelpsy. It looked like
Phelpsy
it.
has a beard now, doesn't
It'd
he?
be more likely to be Ryan Lochte.
I still. What happened? Did we put the other guy? What was his name? Out to pasture.
We talked about him a lot. I don't remember his name.
I wanted you to book him on the radio.
I
show,
tried.
And you never got him.
I know. I tried.
And he's supposed to be some guy who just hangs out,
Yeah.
at a health club during the week.
Why wouldn't he?
Anonymously. Why do we put him out to pasture?
I'm
Is he
not sure.
Too old?
Well, it's TV. You get too old and they start shipping you out. That's the thing, right? It's visual.
Who would
it's
you
going to happen to all of us.
Pick?
For the most interesting man in the
I would
world?
rather it was actually somebody we knew the name of. That
Like
was
Derek
some
Jeter?
obscure. Jeets would be perfect.
See, Jeets would be, because he kind of acted
Jeets
like the
would be
most interesting man in the world.
How
At
about
the
A.J.
table,
Brzezinski?
doing his own thing. I don't know if he's well known enough
You don't
to
think
be
so?
like
For us, he
nationwide.
is.
For us, if you want to do local stuff, which happens all the
outstanding.
time, it would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I would